Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since thru-hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I am so good. My parents just left. They were spending a few days at my house, and I just love them so much. I love having them around. I think we have such good conversations, and my mom's funny. She just sees whatever's missing in the house. Like, I woke up this morning and she was like, I went to the grocery store. I got some new toilet rolls and some new dishwashing soap. So I'm just sleeping and she thinks about these things. How amazing. Today, I want to talk about fear of failure and how to reframe how you see that kind of fear. Deconstruct fear of failure. I want to offer some perspective shifts again, and I have 5 of them. It's my love of numbers. It's the 5th episode that starts with a 5. It's going to be the last one. Don't worry. This is the end of my obsession. So 5 ways to deconstruct fear of failure. Are you ready for number 1? All right, let's go. Number 1. Similar to last week's episode, I want you to notice the impact of your thoughts on your actions, especially when you take up something new and you're afraid that it might fail. I'm going to give you a few examples. Let's say you think it might not work. You start a business or you want to make money from your art. Maybe you're an illustrator or designer like I used to be. You want to freelance and you think it might not work. When you think this, it might not work. It makes you feel doubtful. And when you feel doubtful, you don't show up the same way. You show up with doubtfulness. So when you talk about work, people can sense your doubt. And also, you don't talk about what you do as often or as confidently because you're thinking it might not work. And people can sense that. So when you think this, you actually increase the chances of it actually not working. Versus if you think it might work, we're just removing 3 little letters. If you focus on the idea that it might work, if you tell yourself, I'm willing to consider that it might work, it makes you feel hopeful and you show up from a place of hope. And that is totally different. It might be subtle, but the energy that is around you is going to be completely different and is more likely to mean that people will trust you and want to work with you. So when you believe it might work, you increase the likelihood of it working. Another example, as long as you think something like, oh, it's impossible for me. I believe it's possible for her, Marie. She's done it, but it's impossible for someone like me. I cannot be like her. You're staying safe. As long as you believe this, you're staying hidden. You're not taking action. And another example that I hear very often is, I just don't know how. I just don't know how to get started. And you think it's so true. But as long as you are confused, you don't have to do anything. It's like a safety blanket. Instead of telling yourself, I just don't know how, what else could you say? You could say, I'm figuring this out. I'm figuring this out is more of an active way to go forward. I just don't know how leaves you passive, waiting for an answer. I'm figuring this out. The circumstances are the same. You don't have more information, but telling yourself that you're figuring this out, do you hear the difference of how the statement is more active and you're more likely to go out and get the information, go after the information that you do need to move forward versus I just don't know how. And this is a static state. So this is the first way to deconstruct for fear of failure. Notice the impact of your thoughts and decide, do I want to keep believing that or do I need to tweak what I've been focusing on. Number 2, you got to be willing to put yourself in harm's way. So if you tell me, oh, this is not likely to work, like this actually might fail, what I want to answer and what I actually want you to answer to tell yourself is prove it. Prove it. You have a hypothesis that your idea is too good to be true, that it's unrealistic, that you cannot make money out of this. Okay, well, prove it. If you tell me I want to write a book, but I'm probably not a good enough writer, people are not going to think it's a good book, prove it. Go out and prove it like a science experiment. You can't just sit with your hypothesis and see them as truth. Imagine if a scientist did that. Oh yeah, this vaccine works. That's my hypothesis, but I haven't proven it. What? No, that's a shortcut. So if you have this negative idea about what you want to do, you at least have to go out there and give it a real shot. And I can already hear you say, but Marie, no, I'm scared. That's the whole point. I'm scared of the failure. I know. I'm scared of organizing parties. It's always been the case when I was a kid. I don't know what happened, but I didn't want to organize birthday parties because I was just afraid that no one was going to show up. And I am still the same today. When I organized a goodbye party for my thru-hike just before I left on the PCT, I did it, but like hesitantly. And there was so many people who showed up. I was like, oh my God. All of these people came to see me? I was so surprised. But most of the time, I just want organized parties. Even if I have an idea, even if I would like to gather the people that I love, I just don't want to risk failing. So I'm going to organize an evening that I know has no risks of failure. Like, oh, I'm going to just invite these 4 friends that I know are going to come, that I don't have to feel embarrassed if I invite 30 people and only 2 show up. But that fear was impacting my business because, for example, when you say, oh, I have this group coaching program that I'm opening, this is kind of like organizing a party, or just hosting a workshop is like organizing a party. I'm hosting a workshop. You're all welcome to come. You don't know how many people are going to show up. Even if they buy a ticket, you don't know how many people are going to show up live. I was terrified, but I had to be willing to put myself in harm's way. I had to tell myself, actually, I want to fail because that's the only way to grow. I want to risk failing. I'm willing to pay that price if it means I can build a successful business that I love. And you know what? I did organize workshops where no one came, or one person came, and you're just giving the workshop to this one person, or you're just doing a Facebook Live and there's no one there, or Instagram Live and there's no one watching. You feel a bit dumb, but you know what? You survive. Even if you organize a party and no one shows up, you survive. The worst thing that happened is how you feel. But you know what? How you feel comes from your thought, and you get to choose what you're going to make it mean. If no one shows up to your party and you make it mean that you're unlovable, that no one likes you, you're going to feel awful. You're going to feel awful, but you get to decide ahead of time what you're going to make it mean. You have a choice there. If no one shows up to my workshop, I can think, no one likes me. I'm not good at this. I should give up. I should go back to graphic design. Or, that's option 1. Option 2, there's a million different options, but right, option 2 is, oh, okay, maybe I didn't talk about the workshop clearly enough. Or maybe that's not something people need right now. Or maybe the Zoom link didn't work. There's a million different ways to look at it. If you organize a party and no one shows up, you can think, okay, well, maybe they're busy. Maybe Wednesday evening is not the ideal time to host a party. Maybe there's the World Cup right now. And I don't watch the World Cup, but maybe my friends, it really matters to them and that's why they're not here. You have to be willing to put yourself in harm's way and see that you survive and see that you can fail and be okay and you don't have to be an asshole to yourself. And the question I want you to ask yourself now is, where are you making excuses? Where are you setting goals that you know are attainable just because you don't want to risk failure? Just like I was telling you earlier, I wouldn't organize parties with more than 4 people because I didn't want to risk them not showing up. Where are you doing that in your own life? Where are you protecting yourself? Where are you protecting your feelings but limiting your growth? Okay, because if you're willing to fail, it means you're willing to put yourself out there in all kinds of ways and you're opening yourself up to massive success, whatever success means to you. It's on the other side of you being willing to put yourself in harm's way. Okay, now number 3, we love to go to the worst case scenario for everything that we're scared of. Oh, what if they don't like me? What if it doesn't work? What if they reject me? What if they never want to work with me again? What if I lose my job? But hear how all of these are questions. And most of what I see is people running questions in circle in their mind. You never actually take the time to answer the freaking question. What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? Then if it doesn't work, what if I lose my job and then I lose my house and then I lose everything? And you've got to slow down and really go there and answer the question. What if you do? What if it doesn't work out? What if you lose your job? What would you do then? And you've got to access your resources. Because when I ask my clients to actually answer the question, you know what? They're like, oh, well, actually, I would just go out and find another job like I've done before. Or I would ask this person for help. And they always have a solution because you're full of solutions. But your primitive brain doesn't want you to see that you're full of resources. Your primitive brain just wants to keep you in panic because as long as you're panicking, you're not taking action, you're not stepping outside your comfort zone. So you've got to slow down the loop of intrusive, panicky questions and really ask yourself, okay, if it comes to it, if I get to this worst case scenario, what would I do? And you'll see that it wouldn't be that bad, that you would figure it out. As this thing I love to say when I was in college, it's going to be fine in the end. And if it's not fine, then it's not the end. Meaning you're going to find a way. You're a resourceful human being. And then you need to, if you're going to spend your time in the worst case scenario, you at least need to give as much time to the best case scenario. At least 50-50. Okay, 50% of your time on the worst case scenario and the other 50 on the best case scenario. It might actually go really well. They might love the project and they might give me a promotion. They might offer me a raise. My business might thrive. I might actually be recognized across the world. I might be offered a job in New York. Whatever it is for you, you've got to let yourself dream. Otherwise, it's not fair to you. It's not fair to you. Many people think it's more responsible to consider the worst case scenario, and we can argue that it is responsible to consider the worst case scenario. But it's not responsible to completely dismiss the best case one. To plan for the best case. To plan for success. Hello, this is really important. I was talking with someone, an art director, who told me they were offered a position in a company, and they said, if this works, I'm going to have my name like in the biggest places in the industry, in Toronto, in New York, in London. But if it doesn't, I'm taking a pay cut for this job. And, I might lose the financial security that I have now. Okay, well, are you willing to risk losing the financial security that you have now for a chance to experience the best case scenario that you just described? Is it worth taking the risk for you? And everyone's going to have a different answer. But I guarantee you that the more time you spend hanging out in the best case scenario, in the belief that this is actually possible for you, the more time you spend there in that belief, the more willing you will be to take the risk. And the same is true. The more time you spend hanging out in the worst case scenario, in the disaster, the least likely you will be the one to take that risk. I spent so much time visualizing the life that I have now, doing a job I love, making an impact, working whenever I want from wherever in the world, going out to conferences and working abroad and being in a really loving relationship with someone who just accepts me exactly as my weird self. And I could go on and on and on. But because I spent time visualizing this life before it existed, I was willing to put myself in harm's way. I was willing to think, oh, you know what? If I jump, if I make this bold move, it might end up being embarrassing. It might end up not working, but I'm willing to take that risk because I care more about the chances of success. I'm willing to take that risk because it's worth to me. The best case scenario is worth the risk to me. Okay? But the only reason why I was able to say that is because I spent enough time there. Enough time swimming in the possibility. Now, number 4, take responsibility. Take radical responsibility for the results that you create. So we want to catch ourselves when we're in self-pity. All of us fall in self-pity now and then. As long as we don't spend too much time there, we're good. But if you're saying something like, it's not working, I tried everything and it's not working, I want to encourage you to shift that, to see how passive that is. It's not that it's not working. It's that you're not working it. It's not happening for me. No, you're not happening to your life. You're not taking the wheel. You're waiting to be picked. Let's say, for example, that you want to be a musician and you tell me, well, I want to be a musician, but it's not working. It's a tough industry. I'm going to ask you, have you really given it your all? Or have you just waited to be chosen? Have you put yourself out there in ways that scare you? A friend of mine who is also a coach, she was telling me, oh, I think I'm going to need to get a part-time job or something. Like I need to have money coming in. Like it's not working. Coaching isn't working. And I asked her, but I mean, I don't think you've been all in. Do you think you've been all in? Like 100% all in? Like what's the percentage that you would give yourself on how you've been showing up for your business? And she said, oh, well, maybe 60%. Well, duh. Then you have a choice. You can either show up 60% because you're scared of the other 40% and then go get a job, or you can go all in. And once you've gone all in, seriously, you've taken your dream seriously, and if it still doesn't work, then maybe you can consider it. But I see too many people being 60% in and telling themselves it's not working when they're actually not working it as fully as they could. And don't get me wrong, there is no shame in getting a job. There is no shame in quitting when you're exhausted. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I want you to be honest with yourself, to be radically honest with yourself. You cannot say I'm going to get a job because it's not working. You can say I'm going to get a job because I'm tired of trying, because I'm scared. I'm too scared. This is hard for me right now. And so I'm going to get a job because a job would bring me more comfort. I'm not up for a challenge right now. That is honest. But you cannot put it in the hands of the universe. I am getting a job because it didn't work. And I'm being harsh right now, but I mean it. I see this too often and it's not serving you. You're lying to yourself. Just like when you say, I didn't do this because I didn't have the time. You're lying to yourself. I didn't do this because it was not a priority for me. I didn't do this because I did not take the time. Let's say you want to read more books. You cannot tell me, oh, I didn't read because I didn't have time to read this year. This is just puts the responsibility externally, and you're never going to become the person that you want and create the life that you want by putting the responsibility for your desires on factors like time. Okay, so I didn't read as much this year because I didn't take the time. I didn't make it a priority. There is no shame there, but you're telling the truth. You are telling the truth to your psyche, and this matters. I remember someone who stopped hiking the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, after 10 days. And we were having a conversation. I asked them if they had trained, and they said before starting, and they said, no, I didn't have time to train. My dad was sick. And I thought it was funny. It was interesting because they were telling me they didn't have time to train because their dad was sick. And yet they had time to create a whole YouTube channel and lots of videos before their hike. So the truth is not they didn't have time to train, is they didn't prioritize training. Maybe they didn't feel like doing it or didn't think it was important. They did have time though. So just be careful what you tell yourself. It's not about what you tell me. It's about what you tell yourself, what you hear yourself saying. Are you being honest with yourself? One of the reasons why I managed to switch careers and now have a successful business that's allowing me to make a full living, to make more money than I used to, is not because I'm special or because I was lucky or because it quote unquote worked for me. No, I fucking worked it. I'm not special. I just get to work when I'm supposed to work, even if I don't feel like it, even if I don't want to. Just like the PCT again. I didn't get to the northern terminus by chance. Yes, there is a part of luck, because I could have slipped on the rock and hurt my knee, for example. That happens. That shit happens, and it's no one's fault. But I woke up every morning, and there was many days where I didn't feel like hiking, like spending my whole day hiking. But I did it anyway, because I really cared. And I'm not saying that people who don't finish don't care. Not at all. I'm just saying make sure that you're honest with yourself. Because if we take the person that stopped after 10 days as an example, if they tell themselves, oh, it just didn't work for me, you're lucky that you could do the whole thing, it didn't work for me. What's going to happen next time that they set a goal is they're, again, not going to take full responsibility for what it takes to actually reach the goal. In their case, part of what it took is to train, because their body couldn't take it. So taking full responsibility, if you want to reach a goal, for them meant I needed to train in order to help my body adjust. But if they're not telling themselves the truth, the same thing's going to happen again and again, and they're always going to put the fault externally. Okay, now, number 5, the last way to deconstruct fear of failure is to just keep going. So what I mean by that is the other day my client was saying, well, we were talking about their business, and they said, like, it might not work. Like, I want to be able to replace the salary that I have in my job now with my business. Okay. So I asked them, let's say you're climbing a mountain and the summit is over there. This is what you want. You want to get to the summit. You want to replace your current salary with your business. Then what do you do when you haven't reached the summit of the mountain yet? And they said, well, you just keep going. And it's exactly the same thing here. You can, if you want, decide, okay, I'm willing to give myself 1 year, willing to give myself 2 years. And until then, you just keep going. If you dream of having a New York Times bestseller and you write your first book and your first book is not widely read, do you just stop because your first book was not the success you wanted it to be? No, you just keep going. You just keep going until you reach your goal or until you decide that you've had enough. Because it's okay to change your mind as well. You might fall out of love with a goal, and that's fine. That's completely fine. But failure is not an end in itself. It's just a moment. It's just a blip in the journey. Okay, well, this didn't work. Let's try something else. If I host a workshop and no one shows up, is this failure? It's only failure if I stop there. It's not failure if I keep going, because the next workshop might be better. If you trust that you're eventually going to get to the summit, if you hang out in that belief, if you believe that it's possible, that you can get there, you're going to take the time it needs to make it there. And this is really important. I'm going to repeat it with an analogy, an amazing analogy that I heard the other day. I don't remember who said it, so I cannot credit their wisdom, but know that it didn't come from me. So let's say you're going to the grocery store and you know you're going to make it to the grocery store, but there's a detour in the road. You might get annoyed at the detour, but you keep going because you know you're eventually going to arrive to the grocery store. So that's why belief is so important. Believing that it is possible for you and looking for evidence that it is, holding that belief, spending time there, is going to help you keep going when it's tough. That's why coaching is so helpful. Because not all I do, but a big part of my job, of what I do with my clients, is getting them to believe. So when they start working with me and I get them to share their desires with me, they're in a place of doubt. Like, I would like that if possible, but I doubt that it would work. And my job is to take them from doubt to belief, all the way to knowing. I want them to finish working with me and say, I know this can work. Because when you know it can work, even though you don't have actual evidence because you are busy creating the evidence, you show up fully. I know I can do this. You show up fully. So my job is to take you from a place of doubt to a place of deep inner knowing so that you can show up with calm, grounded confidence. This is what I do, and this is why I don't need to know about how to write a book or how to ask for a raise, or I don't tell you what to do. I help you trust that you know what to do, and that even if you're not sure, you can trust your best guess. Go out there and you can fall flat on your face and it's going to be okay. You can get up again and it's not that big a deal. We just keep going. And once you achieve your goal, after all of this, you feel so proud, so capable, and you feel unstoppable, like you could do anything else. That is my job. I help you prove to yourself that you can do something hard, that you can do something really hard, that you can go after your desires, that you can blow your own mind. So if you want to work with me right now, I'm offering one-on-one coaching. I rarely do. I usually do group programs, and group programs are amazing, but for some of you, you enjoy the privacy. For some of you, you don't want to be in a group. You just want to be you and I in an intimate container. So if there's something that you want to do, but you keep getting afraid that it won't work, that you're not good enough to make it work, then we need to work together ASAP. Because I want to help you deconstruct those thoughts. I want to help you prove to yourself that it's not true, that you're so much more capable than you think. Because when you realize how powerful you are, how amazing you are, and how brilliant your ideas are, boy, your life is going to be so much more fun. You're going to be liberated. I remember how I used to feel. I used to feel like I was a illustrator, but my style was not original enough. I was bland. I was kind of like all the other ones, and I was not standing out. My voice was not special enough. I was thinking I'd like to write a book, but there's nothing that stands out. Like, I haven't been writing since I was a kid, so my writing is ordinary. I'm ordinary. That's what I used to believe. I'm too ordinary to do anything extraordinary. But that is a lie. So if you believe that about yourself, that you're too ordinary to do something extraordinary, I'm here to tell you that that is fucking bullshit. You're going to start discovering that there's so much magic inside of you, that you have gifts, unique gifts that no one else can offer the world. But first you have to open yourself up to failure, to make friends with the possibility that it might not work at first, and being okay with that. And that's what I help my clients do. So if you want to work together, go to selfgrowthnerds.com/dreamer. selfgrowthnerds.com/dreamer. I'm going to help take you from dreamer to doer. And when you go to that web page, you can click on the button, book a clarity call, and we can sit together for free, get to know each other, make sure the vibe is right. I'm going to tell you how, I'm going to listen to what's going on for you, and I'm going to tell you how I can help, and then you can decide. Do I want to jump in? Is this for me? You get to decide. So selfgrowthnerds.com/dreamer. Go and do it now. There's nothing to lose. We're going to sit together. We're going to get to know each other, and then you can decide. All right? So as a summary of what we covered today, 5 ways to deconstruct your fear of failure. First, you have to notice the impact of your thoughts on the actions that you take, and how your beliefs are going to be confirmed in your results. So if you believe it might not work, you're that much more likely to creating that reality. Number 2, you have to be willing to put yourself in harm's way. You have to be willing to fail and see that you survive. There's no other way. You can't escape failure. So you have to make friends with it. Number 3, you have to really go to the worst case scenario and ask yourself what you would do in that situation, and see that you're so much more resourceful than you think. And you also have to spend equally as much time in the best case scenario. Because the more time you spend in the best case scenario, the more willing you're going to be to take risks. Number 4, take responsibility. Stop putting the reality that you are in and blaming it on external circumstances. Yes, external circumstances have something to do with it, but when you put your focus solely on them, then you're losing all of your power. So make sure you empower yourself by taking full responsibility, whether it is for a failure or a success. And lastly, number 5, just keep going. If you really believe that it can work, that it is possible for you, that the dream is possible for you, you're just going to keep going. You're going to take the time it needs to get there. You don't know how long it's going to take. Sometimes it takes, actually not sometimes, always, almost always, it takes longer than you thought it would. But if you really believe it's possible, you're going to enjoy the journey. You're going to just keep going until you get there. So that's it for this week. I hope this was helpful. And I hope this is going to encourage you to go out and take action and see what's possible. I am sending you all so much love, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.